Welcome students to the second semester, in which we have 3 trades this semester for workshop. Namely, you will have machining, which will be in the machine shop. Then you will have plumbing, and you will have the last trade, and that is pattern making and foundry. Both go hand in hand. One cannot do without the other. Now, pattern making is making a small piece which has to be multiplied, or you have to make n number of pieces using this main piece. So of metal, wherein we will be using this. Suppose we make this pattern, we make a mold in sand of this n number of molds, and then we will be pouring molten metal. Molten metal, the temperature is hot. Of course, it will be roughly around 700 to 1200 degrees C, which is very high. As a result of which, we could get burnt. So to prevent that, we got to have proper PPE. But let me introduce you to pattern making and foundry. Now, foundry is a place where metals are melted and poured into molds. Pattern is the basic tool, the principal, most important tool that is used in making the mold, in which we pour molten metal and we get a casting. So, foundry has certain rules or safety rules. Now, these safety rules are meant for taking care of not only of yourself, of your hands, legs from the burns, but also taking care of others and the equipment itself in the foundry shop. So now we shall see some of the tools that are used in foundry. The first tool will be, of course, the pattern. Patterns are of various shapes. The patterns are used to prepare molds, as I have already told you, in sand. So first, we require to prepare the sand. To prepare the sand, we use, all of you might have seen this. This is called a strainer in normal terms, but it is called a riddle, R-I-D-D-L-E. Okay, we use a riddle for separating the big particles from the very small ones. Why do you require small particles? So that the mold is very clean, so that the casting form, the final product, the casting form, is of very good finish. So, a riddle is used for spreading off the heavy and big particles from the small particles. The next tool that I am going to show you is the trowel. Trowels are of various shapes. This is an oval trowel. Okay, this is used for mixing the sand, as well as it is used for pouring sand. After the trowel, the next tool that we use is this. This is called a strike-off bar. Whenever when preparing the sand mold, the excessive sand is removed using this tool. This is called a strike-off bar. After the strike-off bar, the next tool is rammer. Rammers come in various shapes. Rammers come in various shapes. So rammers are used for making the sand compact. Now, if the sand is not compact, your mold preparation might fail. As in, while preparing the mold, sometimes your so-called pattern, when it is removed, you might get the mold shaken, or you might get a very different shape from what is desired. So for that, we got to have proper compacting the sand with the help of these tools, which are called rammers. Okay, after rammers, the next tool that we will be using is a shovel. A shovel is also used like a trowel for mixing large amount of sand. This is used for small amount of sand. This is used for large amount of sand. Trowel. The next tool is this. This is called a vent rod. This is used for making fine pores so that the hot gases that are within the mold cavity, because of the hot molten metal that we just poured, okay, so these gases should escape, or else they can be. See, this is your casting. I'll show you a casting. This is a casting. If you see, there are dents at some places. Now these dents are because there were less number of holes, fine holes, which are called vents. Because these vents were not there, so what would happen? The gases would be trapped. And when you remove the mold, when you open the mold, there will be small cavities, okay, within the casting. So this is your casting. Okay. So this is the final product. The initial products will be something like this. This is your pattern. This is the casting. Clear? Okay, now, besides the vent rod, we have the dross pipe. The dross pipe is used for removing the pattern from the mold. We cannot remove this with fingers. We got to use a dross pipe for removing from the mold, withdrawing the pattern from the mold. Okay, this is your dross pipe. Besides this, we have after the so-called dross pipe, we have flasks. These are the molding flasks that are used for preparing the mold, in which the lower one, there will be two flasks. The lower flask, which is kept at the bottom, we call it the drag. We fill this with sand. After filling it with sand, the pattern is in the center. Then we put on the coke on the drag. The top flask is called the coke, and we lock it with dowel pins. After locking with dowel pins, we put in two pins, which we are going to remove it later. They are called the sprue and the riser pins. This I will be again discussing later. Then we will be filling it with sand. This time probably not full, just halfway. So if there are two flasks, the lower flask is called the drag. The top flask is called the coke. If there are more than two flasks, it cannot be only one flask. It has to be minimum two flasks. The lower flask is called the drag. The top flask is called the coke. In between, there can be 1, 2, 3 flasks. These are called cheeks. So you will have the drag, the cheeks, and the coke. So it can be 4 flasks, 5 flasks, depending on how big or how difficult the casting to be made is. As far as safety is concerned, past that we require PP. Now, the PP that we require in the foundry shop is slightly different from the other shops. It is the same as, somewhat same as that worn in the welding shop. One will be your boiler suit, lab coat, then we'll have shoes, closed shoes. Then we will have, since we are dealing with hot work, we require gloves, leather gloves. We will have the apron. Besides the apron, when we deal with hot work, we will be using tools like these. This is called the crucible. This is made of graphite. This is used for heating the metal. So the metal will be heated within. So when we deal with this, we require tongs. We directly cannot hold it with gloves either. We use tongs like these for holding the crucible while pouring it. Then, when we are working in the foundry shop, we have to be careful of what the other does, or we should be aware of our surroundings. Like, you cannot do whatever you intend to do, and the other. So it is a teamwork, because everyone's safety is of prime importance. So safety would mean there that each one has to be taking care of not only themselves but also of the others, and also the tools and the equipments that we use. Because if the tool or equipment is faulty, then again it will be used by somebody else. Now this faulty equipment could lead to an injury or a fatal accident. So to prevent all this, we have to see that we keep ourselves safe, we keep the people around us safe, and also the equipments and tools safe. So totally you keep the surroundings safe. And also see that you do not keep anything in the path of walkway. If you keep anything in the path, see that you remove it. Or else there can be an injury, there can be an accident due to that obstruction. Okay, that's it for now.